Let's hit it. Welcome, first-time listeners and returners to the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. We're so honored to welcome on Jack Nicklaus's 82nd birthday and 159 days away from National Corvette Day, the pride of the corner of Dexter and Davidson in Detroit, retired legendary coach and educator of over 40 years, a Hall of Fame inductee, Howard Golding. Golding attended Mumford High School, where he played basketball and later graduated from Wayne State University, which interestingly is now coached by former Detroit Northern Star high school teammate of Derek Coleman, Lorenzo Neely. He also has his master's in education. He met his amazing wife of soon to be 50 years at an Oak Park High School basketball game when she was the cheerleading sponsor, and today you will hear the rest of the story. He's coached a lot of games, 615, had a lot of amazing teams in middle school, high school, and at the JUCO levels, was a part of a lot of wins, 353, had a lot of top-ranked teams, including one that was ranked number one in Oakland County at one point, won numerous individual awards. But what he is most proud of was seeing his student athletes use basketball as a vehicle to see the world and get their degrees. Dozens of whom did just that, and not only earned college scholarships, but later went on to have professional careers overseas. He was inducted into the Michigan Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and received the Pillar of Excellence Award and coached the Maccabiah games, where he helped his team to a gold medal in 1991 in Cleveland, Ohio. He was known as a basketball coach, but not many people know he also coached baseball, has his real estate license, and taught driver's education for a long time. He predictably has Facebook, but he also has TikTok. And you should check out some of his tremendous content that he has put up thanks to his daughters and grandchildren. He was born the same day as Hilary Duff and Steve Largent, and born the same year as Michael Douglas, George Lucas, Al Michaels, Diana Ross, one of the former mayors of New York, we won't name him, Danny DeVito, and NBA Hall of Famer Rick Barry, who will be coming on the show this Monday. Howard, as I said earlier, truly an honor to have you in the Sports Deli podcast, where everyone deserves a seat at the table, especially the legend, Howard Golding.
The legend. Where do you have that table tennis thing set up, in your garage? I think you played.
Absolutely. I've turned the garage into
I see
a man cave and a daughter cave.
You can't park a car in there.
Not anymore.
Yeah, but you don't get any snow or cold, so it doesn't matter.
So cold weather there. It's warming up.
21.
It's up to 21, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't cheat us out of that 4 degrees. It's wonderful to be here with you, Mike. And as you know, we together have a bond that goes back a long, long time.
Yeah, we're going to share that 7th grade story down the road here in a little bit that you and I have laughed about in the past. But I do want to take you back to the corner of Dexter and Davidson, not quite as popular as the corner of Michigan and Trumbull, which you and I both know was the location of the old Tiger Stadium, which is something that I'll never forget, my experiences there. But it was different growing up back then. Mumford was different. That corner was different. You later grew up in the 60s, as a young man and experienced a lot of things, during that decade. But let's go back to your early childhood and what it was like to be a kid as Howard Golding.
Well, Mike, when I was 9 years old, my father passed away. He was 43 years old. And as you know, that right there creates a bond with you and I, right, as you've been in a situation similar to that too. So we each had a mother raising a family. And I kind of got interested in basketball when I was about 10 years old. And at the corner of Dexter and Davison was a Jewish community center. And they had a league there called the Hanashas Old Timers. And I got involved in it. And that's when the basketball bug really bit me, because I was pretty good at it when I was 10 years old. In fact, our team was so good, we won the championship. They put up an all-star team of all the other kids, the best from each team, to play us, and we still beat them. So
That's outstanding.
That's, and I don't have to tell you the feeling that when you have a passion for the game and the game bites you,
Mm.
it's in you for the rest of your life.
Well, it sounds like sports saved you in a way that it saved me as well. And were you following basketball back then? Obviously, it was different. We didn't have the kind of resources that we have now to watch players. We could only listen for the most part on the radio. But did you
I
love anyone back
remember,
then?
well, I remember going to the old Olympia. A
Mm-hmm.
cousin of mine took me, and
Wow.
when the Pistons first came to Detroit, and they used to play double headers. I know that kids today can't understand that. So in the first game, it would be like Philadelphia and Boston. In the second game, the nightcap would be the Pistons and the Syracuse Gnats.
Wow.
So I remember seeing that. And of course, they played where the Red Wings played because
Yep.
they didn't have a place.
Wow.
But go know that one day I would be able to coach a game at the Palace. And that was really a thrill to be able to do that.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah, the old Olympia Stadium, the old Cobo Hall. There were nothing like those two venues to watch games. That's for sure. So how did you practice back then? Because with a lot of the guests we've talked about in the old days, we used to play Streetball. And yeah, I mean, we used to just get out, and if you lost, you had to wait a long time to play. So you were really battling to stay on the court.
I remember playing in the winter, and when we moved from the Dexter neighborhood to Northwest Detroit, I lived next to a park called Dyack Park on Stansbury and Curtis. It's still there.
Wow.
And I used to take a shovel and go to that park, shovel off the key, and I'd be the only one in the cold shooting the ball. I mean,
without a 3-point line, of course.
There was no 3-point. No 3-point line. So the game was different because obviously the 3-point line did change the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You had that little Bob Cousy one-handed shot. I remember watching you in that lunchtime ball with Mr. Sternberg and all the guys at Roosevelt playing, and that was something that stood out to me, was your little floater. And it was just a way, even now and back then, to get your shot off quicker.
I was always a good shooter, and I love shooting the ball, as many guys do. Yes. But I was good at it, and I practiced all the time. And when I tried out for the Mumford team, this would have been the JV team. There were 100 kids trying out, and a lot of my friends were trying out also.
This is the late 50s, right?
This would be about 1959. Mm-hmm. And most of my friends all got cut, but I didn't. So
now Mumford back then was predominantly white. Is that correct?
Yeah, but our basketball team had a lot of black kids on it too. That they came from Royal Oak Township. So
now, isn't that interesting? Royal Oak Township, which is where they ended up getting bussed into Oak Park.
Correct.
On the bookend of your teaching. Isn't that interesting?
Right. So, I made the team and I played, and but back then, after practice, I had no one to go home with, so I had to walk, and we didn't have a car in the family, so everything was done on foot. And walking in the winter to and from Mumford wasn't such a around the block thing. It was a nice hefty walk for me.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be. But hold on a second. Let me think out loud here for a second. So in the 50s, you had an integrated team.
Correct.
Can you talk about that? Because that's not something I've talked about with anybody, because people think of the civil rights era in the 60s, and I'm fascinated by the fact that you were integrated, trying out. And did you have friends that were?
Yes, I did. Wow. I had, the team was black. We all got along. It was basically Jewish kids and black kids. There were never any fights in the hallway, and we all got along real well. And I did have one special friend. His name was Avery Jackson. He was a very light-skinned black kid that lived on Pembroke in Ohio. We became friends, and we remained friends lifelong till he passed away about 4 years ago.
Wow.
But we were friends and used to visit each other and go to. I remember once he was coming to my house one day after practice. It was an early practice, and he said, "Am I allowed to be in this neighborhood?" And I looked at him and I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, they may not want black people around here." I said, "Well, oh, come on, just come with me." And he came to my house, and my grandmother who lived with us and my mother obviously liked him very much. And we were lifelong friends. He went on to become a police officer in the Detroit Police Department. And his father was also a cop. And his father was the highest ranking commander in the Detroit police force. And that goes back probably to the late 40s.
I was going to say, that's unbelievable.
So his father was in charge of the youth bureau, Avery
Wow.
Jackson Sr.
Wow.
And my friend Avery has a son that lives in the Flint area. And he's a neurosurgeon. And I've been in touch with him just recently, talking to him about his father.
That's amazing. So I haven't ever heard you really talk about your high school coach. What kind of influence did he have on you, if any?
None.
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 Okay.
Because I don't think he was really a good coach. But back when you're a kid, you don't know. You have no way to evaluate a coach as to whether he's a good coach or not.
Yeah.
So I never realized that he wasn't good. He didn't do things that needed to be done on the court. And it wasn't until later when I realized what does coaching take that I realized that he really wasn't that good. I remember once, funny story, I was on the bench. It was a home game. There was a guy on the team named Doug Hoffman. And if you made a mistake for Coach Van Vleck, one mistake, he pulled you out. So you're always looking over your shoulder. So Coach looked down the bench and he goes, "Hoffman, get up here." So Hoffman gets up, Doug gets up, and he takes off his warm-up top and he tosses it to me and he says, "Hold on to this, I'll be right back." Well, when Van Vleck heard that, he said, "Hoffman, sit down." And that was it. He never got into the game. But like I said, when you're a kid, you don't know. You just accept whatever he tells you because he's the head coach.
Yeah, well, he didn't cause you to lose your passion, and neither did Coach Grice cause me to lose my passion, and neither did Jay Billis's high school coach cause him to lose his passion. And I guess what supersedes, maybe a good human, but just not necessarily a good coach or somebody in over their head, or not having the proper training or the right tools in their toolbox, is a passion for the game, which, in this case, me, you, and Jay Billis all had. And, we've dedicated our lives to the great game of basketball. And it's brought us a lot of amazing relationships and happiness. And
incredible.
It's a credit to, the game itself, because the game will be here a lot longer than we will be. Then you went to Wayne State University, right? And so, interestingly, that's where my mom went to school as well. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Went out for the team, and I was on what they call their freshman team.
Right.
Now,
back then, you couldn't play on a varsity anyways, right? Didn't they have limitations?
Yeah. Right. I think you had to play freshman. So I was also working and going to school. Well, practice was at 6 o'clock in the morning. And we didn't have a gym. We had like an Army barracks converted into a gym. There was no Math-I building like they have now, or the new building where the Cruise is going to play, the Detroit Cruise, which is part of the Wayne State Fieldhouse now. So I didn't have a car, and I used to wake up at about 4 o'clock in the morning and eat something, and then walk 2 blocks in the dark to a bus stop in front of Mount Carmel Hospital on Outer Drive,
Wow.
and take the bus and make sure you get there by 6, because the head coach would lock the door. And if you came 1 minute late, you're locked out. You don't get in. So I was on the team, and beside doing the schoolwork and practicing, and then remember, our practices were right after, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I would take a bus home, schoolwork, and get up and do the same thing again.
Wow.
And I then had a job as a locker room attendant. So I was doing that after practice, which would be at the Jewish Center. And let me tell you, if you try to work and play college basketball at any level and go to school, it's impossible. So I remember we were playing an inter-squad game at Pershing High School, which is on the east side of Detroit. And he had a kid in front of me that I knew I was better than. But I can't say anything. The only way to do it is to prove it. Mm-hmm. So in the inter-squad game, I scored 17 points. And the coach, his name was Noah Brown, who was an African-American. He came up to talk to me, and he said, "Yeah, I didn't know you could shoot like that." Unfortunately, I said to him that I would have to take myself off the team, because I couldn't work and go to school and play basketball getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was killing me. So something had to go. Well, I needed a job to earn some money. And the school obviously was the highest in priority. So I had to give up playing basketball.
Oh.
But the passion, never, ever left.
Wow. I don't think I knew that part of the story.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely, we'll talk about it in a little while here. You paid it forward many times over, and helped people live out their dreams and earn their scholarships and even go on to play professionally. So let me ask you about the 60s, because it's always interesting for me to hear people's perspectives in an era, that involved assassinations, and you were already integrated a decade earlier. But did the 60s impact you in a different way?
Well, we had the Vietnamese War going on. And by that time, I was teaching at Lessinger School. And
that's an elementary school.
That was an elementary in Oak Park. Mm-hmm. And I was reclassified 1A, which means I could go. But I did get a teaching deferment from Oak Park protecting me, indicating that they needed my services. And I never had to go. But now I'm going to tell you something else that you may not know about me. Even if I was drafted, I wouldn't go. And I wouldn't go because I would not leave my mother. That's how important she was to me. That God forbid, if something happened to me, that would be just a torture to her, because she lost her father and her husband inside of 1 year. And she was 37 years old with me at 9, and my brother at 1.5 years old. And she sacrificed for us and gave up a huge chunk of her life. 17 years went by. We struggled, never had a car in the family. And we lived in a half a duplex on 14029 Curtis in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Never forgot the address. And I vowed that I would go to jail before I would ever leave her. And makes it sound like I'm a mama's boy, but there was no way I was going to leave her and see her struggle. So when I got the job teaching, I made her life a whole lot easier.
An incredible story. Let that breathe for a second. So you're at Lessinger, and so you'd gone through your teaching to prepare you to be a teacher. Did you know you always wanted to be a teacher?
Well, I always loved sports, and I loved kids. Mm-hmm. And to me, in the situation my family was in, this would have been the fastest thing that I could do to go start earning money to relieve the burden on my mom. And when I did get a car eventually, instead of trading it in on another one, I just passed it down to my mother and my brother. And
Wow.
I did. And then I took over the rent eventually on the house and made life a little easier for her.
Amazing.
I was pretty close with her, kind of like I think the way you are with your mom. And
Yeah.
we, she lived with us, and the old story that kids can't wait to move out on their parent. Well, it worked the other way, and for us, she met a man 17 years after my father died. He died in 54, and he was a great guy, and he was a little older than her, and he asked her to marry him, and she didn't know what to do. So she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Look, you have nothing to lose. There's no children involved. He loves you, and I don't want you to be alone anymore." And it was a wonderful thing that they got married. She was married to him for 20 years till he passed away. And I stayed behind as she moved on. And I didn't like coming home from a basketball practice. At that time, it was middle school at Clinton on Park Lawn in Oak Park. And I didn't like coming home to a dark house all the time and eating beef stew every single night. So I used to go to the games on Friday night at the Oak Park High Gym. And I was coaching middle school basketball. I did that like for 12 years. And
Wow.
when I was at one of the games, I saw a very pretty girl leading the cheerleaders. She was the sponsor. And I asked a couple other gym teachers I was with, "Who is that?" And they said, "Her name is Rita Forbes." And I said, "Oh, really? Is she Jewish with the name Forbes?" They said, "Yeah, her dad's the mayor of Oak Park." Oh, I said, "Oh, they said, would you like to meet her?" I said, "Yeah." And they introduced me to her. And 49 years later now.
Unreal.
So I married the mayor's daughter.
Wait, did he grill you?
No, as a matter of fact,
Wow.
he accepted me for the way I was. Their parents, Joe and Rena, opened up their arms to me. I felt comfortable being in that family. And then, of course, Rita has two sisters, Esty, who's the middle child, and Nikki, who's the youngest. And I just felt like I was part of their family. And it felt that way the rest of my life until they both died.
Sorry for their passing. Wait, did Rita play hard to get?
No, I don't think so. No, she didn't play hard to get. But I was afraid to get married. And I went with her for 2 years.
Wow.
And her mother said, "If you don't put the cards on the table, this is going to go on forever." So it was, she put it to me. It was, should or get off the pot.
Absolutely.
So I looked at my life, I was losing my hair already. She was a Jewish girl from a wonderful Jewish family. She was educated. She was a teacher in Oak Park. And that was important to me because my mother struggled without an education. And if anything happened to me and there were children, I didn't want to see her struggle. So by her being a teacher, I knew she had a profession that she could always fall back on if something happened to me. And after she, I looked at my life and I saw that I wasn't getting any younger. And sometimes an opportunity is right there in front of you. And a lot of people look past that opportunity because they think there's something better farther down. And later in life, when they look back that they had that opportunity that they passed up, they regret it because they can never get it back again. I didn't let that opportunity slide by because I knew it was the right situation. I just needed somebody to push me a little bit. So she pushed. So next year in December, it'll be 50 years.
Mm. Oh, congratulations. Unbelievable. What a ride it's been.
Oh, let me tell you, the beautiful thing about her is that she loves sports because
Right.
her father trained her so well. You go into Joe Forbes' home, if there were games on, he had 3 television sets in the same room, all going with a different game. and,
Wow.
and if you were going to cross the TV to get to the other side, you know what I'm going to say. You don't cross the television sets until there's a timeout or a lull in the action. So Rita grew up in that environment. She used to go to the baseball games. Of course, her seats at Tiger Stadium were different than mine. Hers were box seats. I'm out in the upper left field bleachers. And she was at Michigan State. She was friends with that 1965 team with Bob Apisa, Dick Kenny, Dick Webster, and all those guys. They're all Americans. And Bubba Smith.
Wow.
She lived in Wonders, which is the same dorm they lived in, and they all became friends. And so she was at all the football games because she had a personal contact with them. And when she hooked up with me, basketball became it was a big part of my life. And she has never, ever complained about having to go to all the games, which she was there. And I mean, all the away games, all the home games, she was always there. She understands the game, I think, almost as well as I do. And she's able to call timeouts sitting in the den when the coach needs to take it because she knows the feel for it.
Right. Yeah.
So you couldn't have ever asked for a better life partner to share in my joy and what I loved. And basketball was definitely a big part of my life. I coached it for 30 years.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a second. What an amazing story. What a great time for a little nudge. You got a good nudge at a good time.
She's has my back. She's 100% behind me. She cares about me. She loves me. What more could you ever want? She wants me to have all the good things in life. And we're at a stage in our life now where we're comfortable and we can do things that a lot of people can't do. And I'm very fortunate to have her.
Yeah, well, you learned at a young age, the importance of sacrifice and servitude. And, you've been doing that for, the greater part of both of your lives, and you're an amazing team. And so that just shows in just about everything that both of you have done, not only on the court, but off. And so I want to ask you about your 2 girls. You've always been a little bit more aware and forward thinking, as a teacher and as a coach.
Well, I coached girls too for 3
Right.
years, like you coach girls. And at first I didn't want to. Because I felt boys is where it's at. But there's a certain thing you get from girls that you don't get from boys. And it was exciting taking the Oak Park girls basketball program, which the most they ever won was 2 games. And then I was asked by Howard Stone, a blessed memory. And he said, he was the athletic director. And he said, would you, help us out and coach the girls? And I said, Howard, I really don't want any part of it. And he said, but I really need you to help me out. You got to do me a favor. Well, I couldn't say no to him because he was such an important person in my life and such a good guy. So I took the girls and I had goals and it was all laid out what we wanted to accomplish. And the first year that I coached them, we won 4 games. The second year was 10. And the third year was 17.
Amazing.
So there was steady improvement all the way through. And because of the girls, I met a guy named Jim Curry. his daughter, Jerisha, played on the team. Jim was the recreation director of the township.
Mm.
And I said, you're going to coach with me. I need you as my assistant. And our team was basically all black, except for maybe one or two white girls. And
I was your assistant for one of those years. One of those years,
right.
I think it was the third year, your third year.
Yeah,
one of the girls went to Michigan State to play, I believe.
Right. It was Stacy Thomas.
Oh, she was so good. Wow.
She was really good. And she was on the Michigan State team for a short time, but she was there. Mm-hmm. And Jim Curry and I became really, really close.
Wow.
And he referred to us as salt and pepper. The white guy and the black guy.
Oh man, that's great.
So unfortunately, he died. Jerisha is still teaching in Oak Park. She became a teacher there. And a lot of those girls I am still in contact with. I've been to their weddings.
Wow.
I've been to their parents' funerals.
Oh.
And basketball at the high school level is a vehicle.
Yeah.
Not all coaches see it as that. They're looking at it from their own ego, that the eyes of the crowd are on them. The eyes of the crowd don't go to the coach. It goes to the players on the floor. But you have to understand, basketball is not an end. It's a vehicle to improve a kid's life. And I've always looked at it that way, that you take basketball and you could have an influence. A coach's influence lasts forever on players, as you know, because you do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And the relationships that I got from the girls' team was invaluable. After the third year, I had those girls ranked in the state of Michigan. We were ranked in Oakland County. We were doing real good. Of course, it's a slower game with girls than back then.
Absolutely.
And they weren't as athletic as they are now.
Wow.
But I don't regret in my life that I coached the girls. It was a great experience. Would I coach girls again? Yeah, I would. Absolutely. It's the same game. And you teach it the same way as you teach it to the boys. But I've always wanted to coach boys at the highest level I could get to in the high school. And that's why I switched with Dick Rice. He was the boys coach and I was the girls coach. And he was getting a lot of pressure, not winning. And he wanted to get out of the boys' job. And I said to him, why don't we switch? I want the boys' job. You can walk into a ready-made win situation. And that's what we did. We switched and it was okay. And
yeah, it was probably a better fit because, he didn't maximize people's potentials. He had great success because of the talent that he had around him.
Absolutely.
Give him credit. He won a state championship, but, it was probably for the best. And the program took off back again after you took over.
Right. Well, I've had some bad years too. It isn't all rosy, but, I feel that you learn more with a bad season than you do with a good season. And what it does is it causes you to introspect yourself in what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? What can I do better? How am I treating these kids? How am I communicating with them? It causes you to look at things that when you were winning, you might have overlooked because winning covers up everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question. So one of my years when I was coaching the girls, we were 4-7. And I was like, this isn't working. And this was my 5th year. So there's a little bit of pressure at the college level to win. And I bagged everything. My assistant coach was a former marketing director for Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan and Kobe. And so, he was volunteering his time. And I was like, after 5 years, I was like, this isn't working. And so I just let them, with a little bit of structure, do some things that I normally wouldn't have let them do. We won 17 in a row. And we went to the second round of the state playoffs and ran the table in conference play. Did you ever say to yourself, this isn't working in the middle of the season and just bag it? And you were glad you did that?
Well, I had a play chart that I used to use. And if I saw something wasn't working, I just said, the hell with it, and just didn't include it anymore.
Mhm.
If I had to find fault with myself, I would say as a coach, I might have been too rigid. And now if I was coaching, I see the game differently. I see myself differently. I wouldn't be as rigid anymore. I would give the players an incredible amount of freedom with the knowledge of basic fundamental skill, but I wouldn't jam down their throat play after play after play, because I don't think the game's played that way anymore.
Yeah. So talk about the transition to the boys game and some of these lifelong relationships that you've, developed from, Ryan Perryman to, so
Yeah,
many others, Jamie
I've
Arnold and
I've coached boys at Oak Park, hundreds of them. It was incredible. When I had tryouts, I would get about 120 kids trying out.
that's unbelievable.
Okay, that many. Of course, 75 of them were ineligible, which was a common thing going on at Oak Park. They didn't have the 1.6, I think, or the 1.8 average, but they would try out anyway.
Mhm.
And what I detected was that these kids, beside the love of basketball and that I had and that they had, which was the tie together, I saw that these kids needed more. And a lot of them came from homes without a father. Well, I could relate to that, because I came from the same thing.
Mhm.
And I felt a lot of the kids in the Black community, from their single parented mother, weren't getting the knowledge of how to go to college. What do you have to do? Or giving them the motivation and the inspiration to do well in school. So I started to do those kind of things, and kind of like became a father beside a basketball coach. Now, did all the kids like me? I would say there's some that didn't. But for the majority, I would say the majority of them and I got along real well. Now, think about it. It's a Black team with a white coach, Black parents watching a white coach. It worked. Was I accepted right away? No. I had to prove myself. Number one, I had to prove to the players that I knew what I was talking about. Because if you're going to try and BS them, they're kids. They could see through that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's part of gaining respect. Once you have their respect and they know you know what you're talking about, now you can coach them. Mm-hmm. And if you care about them, not just on the court, but what happens to their lives off the court, you could teach them anything you want. And once I started sending a few kids to college, it kind of mushroomed and things went really smooth. And it was just a fun place to be.
That's amazing.
I learned a lot about the Black culture. And, one of the remarks a kid said to me, he said, Mr. Golding, you should have been Black. And I looked at him and I said, but I am. And he says to me, you are? And I said, yeah, you see this? There's blood that runs through my veins. And, I had an incident with Marcus Iverson, all-state player. He used the N-word in practice. And I called him over and I said, Marcus, we're not going to use that word here. If you use it outside of the court, when I'm not around, I can't control that. But we're not going to degrade the culture of the people. And that word is degrading. Coach, you don't understand. You don't understand how we use it. I said, no, I do understand how you use it. And if I used it, it wouldn't be understood the same way. That evening, his mother called me, Lenore. Yep. Lenore Iverson calls me and said, I heard you had a run-in with my son. I said, well, not really. And I explained to her what happened.
Not really.
She said, well, we don't use that word the way you do. And it's okay. You just don't understand. And I said, my my basketball court is my classroom. And in my classroom, we don't use derogatory comments. And she said, well, you know, I can pull him out and send him back to Pershing High School where he came from. And I said to her, well, let me ask you something, Lenore. Do you want the very best for him in school? And the answer was yes. Do you want him to succeed as a basketball player? Yeah. Do you want him to go to college, maybe on a scholarship? Yeah. I said, isn't that amazing? You want the same things for him that I want for him. I said, you know, we have more in common than uncommon. And from that point on, she left him where he was. And he stayed with me. And to this day, I'm close with Marcus Iverson. It's amazing. And her too. I mean, I became friends with the parents. That's the amazing thing. It didn't just stop with the player. It went into their homes where if one of their parents dies, I go to Black funerals. Been to a lot of them. So
wow,
it
powerful
was very
stuff.
rewarding.
Yeah, amazing. Well, and I'm sure looking back on it now, you're glad that you never compromised who you were, and you know, you lived with the type of upbringing that you had, because it taught you, you know, how to be a better man, and it taught you how to be a better coach and an educator.
I could relate to those kind of kids
Yeah.
because I was basically the white kid that was in the same situation.
Now let me ask you a question. Having said that, so we're approaching 2 years since the racial reckoning, the second one in your lifetime, after the murder of George Floyd. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about the fact that we're both Jewish, and, you know, we have a long lineage of family members from the Holocaust and Holocaust survivors. And so we have a different level of empathy than, you know, maybe other cultures might have. And so you saw, just like everybody else, a knee on someone's neck for almost 9 minutes that the entire world saw, that was murdered right before our eyes. And so we've had a lot of, and you've seen a lot of people in this space stand up for social injustice. Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Arthur Ashe, and the list, you know, goes on and on. And even a few years prior, we saw Colin Kaepernick take a knee, which was recommended to him by a white military person. And so you were not coaching at this time, but did any of your players call you, or what was your thought process after this? And do you think coaches around the world
you couldn't survive coaching Black kids as long as I have if you had a dislike for Black people? So that was never the issue. I like being with the kids. I saw them as, I'm coaching kids. They just happen to be Black kids. But I enjoyed being around them. I laughed with them. I cried with them. I never lost my identity and respect to them by them saying, he's our buddy. I was their friend, but there was always a pedestal of where I was and where they were.
That line of demarcation. Yeah, no, I understand.
It bothered me a lot to see what was going on in America. And I felt it was so unfair. And it's inconceivable to me that people, whatever their race or culture or creed is, to be treated like that. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I've gone back and watched film of the 60s with the in the white South with the fire hoses. America should be embarrassed in their history for what they did to Black people. In fact, I used to, when I was teaching social studies, I used to do a comparison with the Holocaust and what the Black people went through. And I used to show the kids the comparison between the two, how similar they both were. Because Black kids didn't know anything about the Holocaust. nothing. And I wanted them to know that they weren't the only people that were degraded and through segregation, that this has happened to other people too. The difference, obviously, is that the Jewish person can hide behind their white skin. The Black person can't. But I've always had a feeling for Black people not getting a fair shake. And I never had a problem working for a Black principal. And when I did my student teaching, my supervising teachers were Black gentlemen in the inner city. And I always felt comfortable around Black people. And to this day, I still do. And when Oak Park has their Christmas reunion at Mr. Joe's restaurant, and Rita and I go to it, and remember Gurji, the Indian guy who he spearheads it.
Wow.
And it's all Black people and just me and Rita. And I don't feel out of place. I feel comfortable there. And they treat me like I'm still up on that pedestal. Even the ones that never played for me, and the girls too, because they know my reputation. And but the reputation is everything. It's not the money. It's your reputation. And to get the reputation, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years to build that reputation.
Well, that's amazing. You certainly did that, and then some. And I think what you told Lenore really sums it up best, that you have more in common than the differences that you might have just because of the color of your skin. Oh, fascinating stuff. The other thing that I like to talk about is mental health. Obviously, it was treated differently back, even when I was in high school and in college as a player. And so are you glad that the mental health space is being normalized now, so that, people know that they're not alone? Because my father committed suicide when I was 9. And so that's where we have a common bond in terms of losing our fathers. And so, especially in the Black and brown community, this is just not something that has ever been normalized until maybe recently, where you're either an outcast, you're roasted because, something's wrong with you, or, like I said, something's wrong with you and you're not normal.
Well, if you look at our country, I call it being upside down. I think America is really upside down in everything. And in mental health is just one of the other categories where I know you do a lot for homeless people, but it bothers me to no end to see people living on the streets, not having a roof over their head, worrying about where they're going to get their next meal, or if they're in Michigan, to get out of the cold. What does that say about our country? And yet we have so much money that go into such foolish stuff that a lot of these wealthy people can do so much with their money, but it's going in the wrong direction. And it bothers me. But I remember Mr. Mural at the high school saying to me, "Howard, you're trying to save the world. You can only do what you can do." And that had to do with Rodney Hampton, who I was trying to get to go to school, and he didn't want to go to school. Here's an all-state basketball player, and he just was very lackadaisical. And Merle said to me, "You can only do what you can do. You can't save the world." He eventually did go to school, and he became an All-American in Cleveland in a junior college, and then he played at Iowa State. So it came out right for him. Still in touch with him.
Yep.
And Perryman.
Played overseas for a long time.
But the country's a mess with the vaccinations, that they don't want to get vaccinated, and everything that's going on. The crime is at a high rate. Life has no value. People killing other people. What's happened to this country? When I was a kid, it really wasn't like that. Growing up was better. You could get on your bike and ride away from your house for blocks, Your mom never worried where you were. There were no cell phones to call and say, I'm over here on this street. I'll be home soon. You stayed out late at night. Nobody ever worried about you. The world was different. Now, all those freedoms have been taken away from kids.
Yeah, it's definitely a different world. I do want to ask you one question before we get to the very famous rapid fire this or that segment, which I know you're dying to answer some of those questions. But education is something that you dedicated the majority of your life to, and more than 40 years. And so I've been not on the show necessarily, but I have been critical of education in the United States, and I think there's a lot of things that should be changed from a curriculum standpoint. Do you think that there's some things fundamentally that need to be changed, whether it's critical race theory or the type of math we teach, more financial literacy versus geometry, you know, those types of things? Are we in an antiquated system right now?
Well, I think there's a lot of skills not being taught. And you'll laugh at me when I tell you this, is like how to maintain a checkbook. Should be taught in school because it's a life skill that kids are gonna need. How to fix things around your house, that you don't have to call a repair person, that you have some skill in knowing how to do it. I've been out of it now for 13 years. And my ed specialist degree was in curriculum development. But just as the world's changed, education's changed, and I'm not a part of it anymore to really know what's going on other than what I know through my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
But everything's different. You know, I'm kind of like a dinosaur and obsolete when it comes to the way schools operate. But
Yeah.
in the 41 years that I was there in Oak Park, it was phenomenal. High achievement school, I don't have to tell you. Smart kids, fun to be around, unbelievably great teachers throughout the school district. And I got to be a part of that. So I don't ever regret coming to Oak Park. It changed my whole life teaching there. It brought me my wife, and from that, my daughters and 4 beautiful grandchildren.
Well, not only changed your life, changed a lot of other people's lives as well.
I help people to get on their feet and never went around talking about it, just did it. Rita also was a part of that. Did that with Robert Brown. And to this day, he calls me dad. I mean, it's incredible. A black guy calling me dad, or Sean Brown calling me on Father's Day and just calling me out of the blue to say, hey, Pops, how you doing? How's everything?
Amazing.
Kirk, before he died, who was not a student, I put him on as an assistant coach. I gave guys chances to be on the bench with me to see what it's like if they wanted to do this type of thing. How about Anthony Striggles? I put him on the bench to be with me and to let them see what's it like, you know, and I'm sure they're indebted to me for giving them that opportunity.
Amazing.
You know, when they see me, they hug me. Even the kids that I had in class.
You're a big mush, Howard.
Well, what can I tell you? I don't.
Nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying.
You don't get rich doing it, but it's a treasure in memories that I wouldn't trade for the money.
Absolutely.
Because the respect goes with it, and you earn that. It's not just handed to you.
Amazing.
And you know how you get the respect? The same way you get it. You put in the time with the kids, and they see you sweating as they're sweating, and they see you caring about what you're doing, and they see you caring about them. And that's what makes everything so perfect.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It is your classroom. It's a bigger classroom.
Right.
But when you care about them outside of those 4 lines, that's what they'll remember for the rest of their lives.
Right.
All right. So has there been any white players on the Oak Park High School varsity basketball team since me?
White players on the Oak Park basketball? No. I don't think there is another white player since you. And
97, 07, 17. That's
I don't-
30, 40.
I
Unbelievable.
think I'm the last white coach.
Wow. Who knew? That is hilarious.
I know I was the last driver ed teacher in the district, that's for sure. And that was with 26 years of teaching driver ed at Oak Park High.
What's your best story about driver's education? Because it used to be a month-long class, right? I took it.
Well, you took it during the day. Was it built into your day?
Yes.
Okay. I did it after school.
Oh boy. In the summers.
In the summers and after school, they used to have it too.
Unbelievable.
And then they eventually eliminated that and just kept the summer. And I got lots of stories about driver ed. They're incredible. So one day we're out driving.
Well, you had the second break though, right?
Well, there were 2 sessions. Session
Okay.
1 would go like for the first half of the summer, and session 2, the second half. And I basically got no vacation, maybe a few days, and then school started again. But I had to teach driver ed because I had to have something coming in because the bills don't stop.
Right.
So, and back then, when I was teaching driver ed, we didn't have air conditioning in the cars.
Oh my God.
We were getting our cars from Melfar Ford, located up on Greenfield and 10 Mile Road.
Alpha superstar for
Right.
a better deal.
And it was hotter than hell in those cars.
Oh my God.
The back of my shirt was soaking wet at the end of the day. So the lunch hour was like a half hour.
Right.
So this one particular time, I had a girl in the car, and I asked her to pull into the McDonald's over here on Greenfield, and there was a cinder block wall that separated the Hebrew Memorial Chapel, which was a funeral home for Jewish people,
Right. Oh shit.
separated from McDonald's. And I said, turn off the engine. I'll be right back. Don't touch any of the buttons or anything. Just don't. And I went in and got something because we eat on the fly while you're teaching. You're eating.
Yeah, you only got a half hour.
Right. So I come back and I get in the car and I said, okay, let's go. And she says, did you want me to go straight? And remember, I said there was a cinder block wall there. I said to her, just a minute. I got out of the car and the window was down. I said, okay, now you can go. So that was one great story. I mean, another one, I had this group, we were on a range. And the range was the parking lot at the high school. We had 3 cars going around in circles and doing different skills. So I said, okay, we're going to stop, put your right foot on the brake and put the car into park and then get out of the car. Well, one girl opened up the door and got out, but she never put the car in drive. In park. It was still in drive. So it's idle speed. And I had to run like hell because it was headed for a house at the end of
God.
At the end where the football field is. Right. It was headed for the end.
God.
So do you ever try to get into a car that's picking up speed as it's idled and you don't have much time till you get to the house? So I remember that. That was unbelievable. Remember almost getting killed 6 times also.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it worth the money? God bless.
Well, the better the driver, the more relaxed the instructor becomes. And when you become relaxed is when you take your mind off of what's going on, and they still make mistakes. And I almost got wiped out 6 times.
Unbelievable. Good thing you didn't have to teach them how to drive a stick shift.
Oh, but I want to tell you though, 26 years of it. And when I see a driver ed car on the road now, how lucky I am not to be in that car. Because I remember those days being in that car.
Oh, man. So the 3-point line came right about after I graduated high school in 1987. Were you a fan of it? And do you like it now?
Well, we adapt to it. It's part of the game. It changed the whole game, I think, at every level. First of all, every kid wants to be Curry. 3. They all want to run to the 3-point line.
Now, do you find that amazing though? Because when Jordan was doing his thing, everyone wanted to be Jordan. Did you ever think somebody would want to be like a guy like Isaiah or a guy like Steph Curry? That surprise you?
Well, not really. Curry's great. He's the greatest shooter ever. And I've seen
But isn't he more than that though? Isn't he more than that? Doesn't he, play in a way where it's a little more swaggy?
he passes the ball a lot. He gives it up and
But
sets
it's
up.
deep threes though. It's not
Oh,
threes. I mean, we have a lot of people in the past that have
he's
shot threes.
he's 6 feet behind the line. He launches it. It's just I've seen him up close inside the 3-point line shooting the ball just for the height. And when it comes down, it's coming right down through the hoop. It's amazing.
Amazing.
And yet in college at Davidson, look where he goes to school. Davidson. It's a Division I, but it's like a mid-major Division I. And the way he shoots the ball, I mean, I remember watching Jimmy Rail from Indiana, and I thought there's nothing like him. And there's a lot of good shooters out there. The kid Antoine Davis from the University of Detroit.
Yeah,
I've watched him numerous times. He's going to be drafted in the NBA because if you can shoot the three,
absolutely,
then there's a place for you in the NBA.
The kid at Oakland that's pretty good too.
Oh yeah, Oakland's real good, and Coach Campy is a good friend of mine.
Wow.
But what it's done is it's made the court wider. It's opened up gaps for driving. And now if you take the post player away, it's easier for them to drive and make layups because it's not congested. And the way the NBA is, you don't need a post player.
Yeah.
Because they can shoot the three. So a guy like Ben Wallace, who played for the Pistons, he'd never fit into the game the way it is today. It's a different game. And what's his name? The big kid that the Pistons had, Andre
Drummond.
Yeah. They don't fit in anymore. Yeah. Not if you can't shoot.
Nope.
So I like the 3-point line because when they shoot that shot, that's the home run. That and the dunk is what people come to see.
Yeah, Giannis is probably the exception to the rule at this point.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So do you prefer the movie Hoosiers or Rudy?
Hoosiers all the time. In fact, since you brought up Hoosiers, what I used to do.
Great win last night for them. Go ahead. Yeah.
I saw the game. What I used to do is at the beginning of a season, for me, I used to sit down and watch Hoosiers to give me the motivation. Because
that's awesome.
It gives you motivation when you watch that. Like, look at these kids. Look what they could do.
Absolutely.
I've watched it. It's a classic. I've watched it numerous times. I never get tired of it.
Tell me who the top 5 players that you ever have seen in high school basketball in the state of Michigan.
Weber.
Weber's 1?
Yeah, unguardable.
Who's 2?
Gerard Abram from River Rouge.
Wow. Really?
Willie
Not Derek
Mitchell.
Coleman?
Didn't play against Coleman. I'm talking about people.
People you played against.
That I gotcha. Gerard Abram went to Boston College. He could really shoot the ball. Shane Battier was a freshman when I knocked him out, but his team was ranked number 6 in the state, and they were supposed to win the state championship, and I got them at Andover and knocked them out.
Wow.
Probably the most exciting win. And the guy who
what was the crowd like?
A lot of people.
Ooh.
A lot.
Wow.
And we were supposed to lose the game, and we pulled it out with 1.5 seconds. I knew if I could hang close to him, I had a chance at him. And what happened is Alex Rogers on my team, who hadn't played in 6 weeks because he had a broken wrist, had now just come back for that game and was on the floor. And he's the one of all people that gets fouled.
Wow.
And he had a brace on his hand, and he was going to the foul line. And the score was, we were up 2, I think, or I forgot exactly, but we needed both his free throws, and it was a 1-and-1.
Wow.
And if you looked at his eyes, he looked like deer in the headlights. I mean, And his own mother was sitting next to Rita in the stands, and she buried her head. She couldn't look. And he went to the line. He made the first one. I told him, I'm walking him down the sideline. I said, Alex, you're going to make history in Oak Park tonight. Your name will live as a legend forever. That you slew the giant, like David slew the giant.
Right.
And he made the second one. They get the ball, throw it in, and they take a shot from half court. It hits the front of the rim. This is at Andover. Falls off the rim, and we win the game. Then the next game, we win. So we won the district. And then we go to the regionals. And we were supposed to lose to Mount Clemens. And we beat them. And then we get St. Clair Shores Lakeshore. And we end up losing by 4 points to them. And that's a story unto itself. If we would have gotten by them, which we should have, then we would have won the state championship. I'm convinced of it. What happened was we were playing Warren Woods Lakeshore. That's where the game was, with 3 white referees. Now, I hate to bring this up, but there was no way that those 3 white officials were going to let a black team come out at that time being the regional winners on the east side. And even Travis Conlon, who played for the University of Michigan, he was their starting guard. He played against me. We held him in check until the 4th quarter, and he went to the free throw line 11 times. I made about 8 of them, and that basically put them in the lead. And his father, Travis Conlon's dad, came up to me, and he says to me, it's a shame the refs didn't let the kids decide the game. That's coming from the kid on the other team, his father.
Wow.
So that's a hurt that will live in me forever. And that's your racism, not allowing black kids. Because what they did is my 2 rebounders, Ala Kadala.
Oh, yeah.
And Ryan Perryman, they were on the bench.
Wow.
In foul trouble because they made sure that those guys had to be taken out of the game. But then Willie Mitchell from Pershing was phenomenal. And we were playing them in a district.
Yeah.
And they were ranked number 1 in Class A, and we were ranked number 5 in Class A. And people said, who puts 2 teams like that against each other right off the bat? Well, we didn't survive it because he had more talent at Pershing. Coach there was Johnny Golston, and we lost there. But how about Tyrone, what's his name? The guy who was the running back from the University of Michigan.
Wheatley.
Tyrone what?
Wheatley.
Yep. Yeah, he was an All-American running back from Michigan. He played at Robichaud.
Yep.
He got 16 off of me, but we destroyed them. And of course we did destroy them. And then my nemesis was Highland Park. Could never get past them. And finally I got by them on their court. And then at our place, we scored 98 points against Highland Park, and that is a record against Highland Park. And they had all these great teams. Do you know that I still send a Christmas card to Coach Percival?
Wow.
He lives down in Georgia.
Wow. That's awesome.
Still in touch with him.
So wait, Weber was the best player, you think, in Michigan?
You couldn't guard him.
So players that you didn't coach against, who's the next 4 best players in the history of the state of Michigan scholastically?
Whoa, gee. Well,
besides Magic Johnson. I mean, we know Magic Johnson.
I know, but do you know how many great players have come out of this state? I mean, it's impossible.
Terry Mills was pretty underrated, wasn't he? Terry Mills was amazing.
Yeah, he was good.
Derek Coleman was great.
Coleman was a monster. There's so many of them. This state produced basketball players like we produce cars. That many of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Perry Watson's Southwestern team.
Yep.
His last kid on the bench could start for anybody. Jalen Rose.
Yeah.
You know, it's just incredible. Yeah. Well, you know, Willie Green, who's now a coach of the Pelicans in the NBA. How about Terry Durod?
Oh, so good. University of
Cliff
Detroit.
Russell from Northern. You just go down the list. It's Curtis Jones from Detroit Northwestern.
George Gervin.
Gervin, another one, incredible. It just goes on and on and on. But basketball be good to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, right. So I'll always have a soft spot for it. But I sat down and just kind of like summarized a lot of stuff from. I have a folder, and I'm not lying to you. It's that thick.
Unreal.
With clippings and pictures, and I'm helped Matt Ishbia, the guy who owns United UWM Wholesale Mortgage.
Yeah, he played at Michigan State.
Right. Well, he just gave $95 million to redo the contract for Mel Tucker, the football coach at State. He gave Izzo and the rest of the university $32 million. And he just gave the Dickie V Foundation $1 million. So I'm going to see him on February 5th.
Oh, he's somebody I would love to co-host with you if you want to try and talk to him. And
he is so hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
That everything goes through his personal assistant.
Yeah.
And I do have his private phone number. When I would call him, he would answer me right away. The last time I sent him a message is to see if he would be at the Michigan State Oakland game.
Yeah.
And he never answered me back.
Yeah.
So he's got 9,000 people working for him in Pontiac, not far from here. And
where did he play for you, at Andover?
No, he played at Seaholm.
Seaholm, that's right.
But then I had him when I coached Maccabi.
That's right.
For 12 years.
That's right.
12 summers of Maccabi basketball. Won a gold, a silver, and 2 bronzes. So
amazing.
So Matt played for me and for 3 years. So I became friendly with the family and him. And when he got a little bit older, he played for Seaholm, and he would bet me that he's going to beat me. I said, Matt, what do you want to bet? Well, let's bet a dinner. I said, Matt, you're never going to win. We play over the rim. You play under the rim. Because Seaholm was a white school. Well, he never beat me. And when it came time, he wanted to play college ball, but he was about 5'8". He was good, but he wasn't a Big Ten basketball player.
Right. Yeah.
So I said, maybe I can help you get into a smaller school. Well, he was accepted to Michigan and Michigan State, and he eventually wanted to go to Michigan State, but he didn't know anybody. Well, I happen to have known a coach named Stan Heath.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know Stan? He's the coach at Eastern Michigan University right now. And he was at Arkansas, and I think he was somewhere in Florida, Central Florida. Well, he was at Wayne. And when I used to bring my teams down to play summer ball at Wayne, I got to meet Stan, and I went to Wayne, and he was the assistant coach there. So I picked up the phone. I told Matt, I'm going to call and see what I can do for you. I called Michigan State, and I talked to Stan, and I said, I got this kid. He doesn't need a scholarship. He's intelligent. He's smart. He'll help your kids at the study table. All you have to do is give him a spot on the bench and a uniform. So he says, well, you know what? Let me get in touch with him and have him come down and scrimmage with us. So he went to Lansing, and he scrimmaged against Mateen Cleaves. Mateen Cleaves took a liking to him, and the rest is history. And he's there at the right time. Because in the year 2000, what happens? They win the national championship.
Yeah.
And he's the last kid off the bench in the championship game and takes the last shot, which was a baseline drive, and he lofts it and it goes over the top of the basket. But by being on that team, he never caused a problem. They finally did give him a scholarship in his senior year, which he didn't need because he comes from a wealthy family. And think of what it did, how many doors opened up by being on that team. Now, today, of the 9,000 people that work for him, he employs Charlie Bell, who played for Michigan State, was on that team, and Mateen Cleaves works for him. So I'll probably see those guys. And he has a gymnasium on his campus in Pontiac.
Unbelievable.
He's listed in the Forbes billionaires. He's worth about $9 billion, they say, and he's on the stock market.
That's amazing. What a story!
Oh, amazing! So he's a big mocker in East Lansing.
Yes, he is.
him and Dan Gilbert, they run head and head with each other here.
Yeah.
I predict that Matt Ishbia one day is going to own the Detroit Pistons. And I already asked him for a job. Just hurry up and do it before I get too old.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
I know. But I had some great players play for me. And we would have won in spite of me, but I think what I did is I refined their skill and brought it out. And by bringing it out, it made them even better. So Ryan Perryman goes to Dayton,
right,
and has a tremendous career. And in his senior year, he's the leading rebounder in the country.
Yep,
12 rebounds, and he gets to try out with the Sacramento Kings. Gets cut on the last cut because they give the spot to Corliss Williamson from Arkansas.
Wow.
And he's now in their Hall of Fame. But I got to tell you this. One of the greatest things was being a big fish in a little pond. I used to get calls from universities all over the country. Well, Rita said, you're taking up the phone all the time. And I'm talking to these guys. We're going to have to run another line into the house. So I remember I'm cutting the grass one day, and Jamie, my daughter, comes out and says, Dad, telephone, Nebraska. Danny Nee is on the phone. So I come in and talk to him. Rita says, you like this stuff, don't you? I said, yeah. She says, well, let me just tell you, once they get from you what they want, you won't hear from them anymore. And there is some truth to that.
Yeah. Yep.
They're after what you got, not you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's great. Tell me about the Palace story.
Okay. Well, I coached at the Silver Dome once.
Okay.
We had the girls there.
Right. I think I remember that. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that was a great experience. But we played at the Palace before a Piston game, and we were playing Romeo. And I guess the Romeo coach knew somebody at the Palace and got us to play there.
Wow.
So we're playing them, and really the game was over at halftime in our favor. And Robert Brown had 20 points at halftime and couldn't understand when I would take him out in the third, fourth quarter and not play him anymore. He wanted to pile it on. And I said, there's no need to pile it on. You won the game. Well, let me set a record. I said, there's no need to set a record because what you're doing is embarrassing them. And we're not going to embarrass them.
Wow.
And the assistant principal, Dave Lessel, came running down and ducks behind my bench and says, Howard, don't pile it on. I said, I'm not, David. Don't worry about it. But I'm putting the other kids in the game, but I can't tell them don't try to score. But it was an experience of actually coaching on that floor.
Wow.
It was great. But playing at St. Cecilia in Detroit.
Oh, for those of you, for first, hold on a second. So for those of you listening, got to give you a little bit of context. So the Silver Dome is where the Lions used to play. So they used to put up this tarp halfway through the stadium just for the basketball. And you could seat as many as 60,000 people on certain days. I remember Julius Erving would play there and others, and there would be so many fans, right? But it was hard to shoot because there was such a high ceiling there. And then Howard's talking about St. Cecilia on the other end of the spectrum, which is where a lot of the most famous players that have ever come out of Detroit played at St. Cecilia Gym. It's a Cracker Jack box. So I just want to give people a little bit of, context of those two different kinds of gyms. St. Cecilia is very different than the Silver Dome.
But anybody who was anybody,
right?
St. Cecilia,
absolutely.
So, but that was an experience unto itself. You wouldn't expect that little gym, the greatness that came out of that little gym. It's kind of like when you see Motown and you think what came out of that little recording studio.
Right.
It's unbelievable. Well, that's what came out of St. Cecilia.
Or the
Still
movie
going.
Hoosiers, right? Your favorite movie, Hoosiers. Yeah.
But,
amazing.
The experiences of basketball is just incredible. Of course, I coached at Madison Heights Landfair. I was there. I was at Andover for 3 years.
Amazing.
There. I was at Schoolcraft College.
That's right.
And we were 37-4 that year I was there. And we won the district championship. We won the state championship. And we went to in Kansas, Hutchinson, Kansas, for
Mhm.
the national tournament. So I got to be a part of that and
Wow.
see what that was like. I told Rita, pack your bags. We're going for a week into uncharted water. We may never ever be able to come back to this again. And it was the 16 best Division I junior college programs in America, and we were one of them.
Wow.
It was unbelievable.
Did any of those players that you saw play go transfer and then end up in
They
the
all transfer. They're all Division I players.
Yeah.
Where they, a couple of ours, Tavoris Baker went to UAD. Every kid on our team was an all-state basketball player in the state of Michigan.
Wow.
How good we were. It was unbelievable. They could
Amazing.
shoot, they could run, they could jump. I mean, they were unbelievable basketball. They were incredible. It was the best of the area. What would happen is they would go to a Division I school and for whatever the reason, not last. And then go to a junior college to try to get their grades back up so they can go back in. So they came to Schoolcraft because Carlos Bridge seemed to know how to recruit all of them. And I was there as an assistant for that 1 year and got to be a part of it. It was our center was from DeMatha High School, where Morgan Wooten was the coach there.
Wow.
He was 6'9".
Amazing. Vince Lombardi or Bill Belichick?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, I'm old school, so it's Lombardi.
Yeah, that's cool. We had Bill Curry on the show. He played for him.
Yeah.
And told us a lot of stories about him and how he wouldn't, like you, tolerate any nonsense, especially any kind of racism. And I didn't really know that part about him. I just knew him as sort of a tough coach, but he was fighting for, social injustice himself. And he was an ally, just like you and I. Very interesting.
The guy who was the head coach at Wayne State University when I was there, Joel Mason. He played for the Green Bay Packers, and he played next to Don Hudson on the line.
Wow.
And his coach was Lombardi.
Wow.
Maybe that's why the doors got locked at 6 o'clock. And if you banged on the door, he isn't opening the door for you. You better get there and get in there before the hand hits 12. I've seen guys locked out.
I love it.
At 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. A lot of teachers used to do that too. Monster truck show or a dog show?
A dog show.
The Honeymooners.
I've had dogs. I've had dogs.
Yes, you have.
And I love them, and I love the dog show.
The Honeymooners, I Love Lucy, or The Odd Couple?
The Honeymooners, and Lucy right next to it. And you could throw in Leave It to Beaver also.
Yeah, that's right. Leave It to Beaver was great. Abbott and Costello or The Three Stooges?
Both.
Oh, that's a tie. Wow.
Oh, a tie for sure. Oh, Abbott and Costello. I mean, hours I could watch them.
Wow.
And the Three Stooges, I got Mo Howard's autograph on a picture with the three of them. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
All three of those guys were Jewish fellows.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wow.
I know.
All in the Family or Sanford and Son?
Sanford and Son and who?
All in the Family or Sanford and Son?
All in the Family.
Meathead.
Right. I mean, if you want to see racism and prejudice at its highest, that was it.
That was it. I don't think they can make a show like that anymore.
Well, wait, I can beat that. How about Amos and Andy?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I have all the tapes, and if you want to talk about making degrading the black man, that was it.
Absolutely.
That was it. And that's why they took it off the air.
Yep.
But it was very funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Alfred Hitchcock, Perry Mason, or Columbo?
Alfred Hitchcock, part of my youth. Used to watch it all the time. Columbo's good too, though.
I love Columbo. Let me ask you.
Right. With his eye sort of.
Rubbing his face.
That's right.
He always got you. Dennis the Menace, the Jetsons, or Pink Panther?
Dennis the Menace.
Classic. Corned beef sandwich or liver?
Corned beef all the way.
Matzo ball soup or gefilte fish?
I like them both.
I love it. The Lone Ranger, the Rifleman, or Bonanza?
The Lone Ranger and Silver and Jay Silverheels and his horse Scout.
There you go.
You know that I don't, every evening when I go to bed, I watch Gunsmoke every single night.
That's amazing.
Miss
My
Kitty,
grandfather, before he passed away, watched Westerns before he went to bed too. That's amazing.
Matt Dillon, Miss Kitty of the Long Branch, and Chester Good and Festus. Watch them every night. Love them.
What is Rita doing at this point in time when you're
Watching it with me.
Wow, there
We're-
that says it all. Basketball and the Rifleman.
The Rifleman, 1 o'clock in the afternoon till
my
2
God.
o'clock is Gunsmoke, and Rifleman is let's see, Bonanza comes on next, and then the Rifleman after that, I believe.
That's
I watch all
are you repeating the lines? Like, do you know all the lines at this point?
Well, I know a lot of the lines.
I know a lot of the lines. Paul Newman or James Dean?
Paul Newman, great actor. James Dean, heartthrob.
Yeah.
Paul Newman with the blue eyes, love his movies.
You like his salad dressing?
Yes, and I've had it numerous times. Did you know all the profits from his foods goes to charity?
Absolutely. Yep.
He's a mensch. He's a real
he's definitely a mensch. Jerry Lewis or Walter Matthau?
Jerry Lewis.
Boy, is he funny. I miss the telethons.
And did you know his son, Gary Lewis and the Playboys?
I don't think I did.
This diamond ring doesn't mean what it meant to be, what it meant. Oh, his son had a band in the 60s.
Wow.
And they were you'll have to look them up, his songs.
Huh. Interesting.
Okay. But he was a lousy father.
Oh, really?
He was a very bad father. He had 5 boys.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 5 sons.
Same as Rick Barry, who's coming on Monday.
Right.
Interesting.
I know Rick Barry. I remember seeing him when he played for the University of Miami. They didn't have a convention arena to play in, so they played on the beach. There was a place on Miami Beach where he played, and I went to see him. And with the underhand free throws, he averaged 37 points in one of those seasons. He was
he led the NCAA, the ABL, and the right. NBA in scoring.
Oh, I think he's in the Hall of Fame. If he isn't,
he's a top 50 player.
He was incredible. And did you know his coach at the University of Miami? I think his name was Bruce Hale.
Okay.
He married his daughter. Rick Barry married the coach's daughter. Ask him that when you see
that part I didn't know. I know his wife was a phenomenal basketball player at William and Mary. I'm pretty sure.
He lived in Northern California in Danville.
Wow.
I don't know where he lives now, but how do you like his boys? They were all great players themselves.
Great players. And if the roster sizes had been bigger, one of his sons would have played for the Celtics. They told him as much, but they only had 12 roster spots back then, as opposed to now where they have 15. And he's got another son right now in the G League, Canyon. He shoots underhand as well.
Uh-huh. It must be, I bet there's a second marriage with a second family in there.
Yeah, I don't know, because there was a big gap there with the last son for sure. Okay, which MJ? Michael Jackson, Magic Johnson, or Michael Jordan?
Well, I got to go with Magic Johnson because he's from East Lansing and I'm in Michigan.
That's right.
And I remember when he made All-State, and I saved the paper. Wow. And I have the paper, the sports section, when Magic made All-State. And he had the biggest fro that you could ever see. Okay, big. I remember that. But he revolutionized the big man playing the guard position at 6'9", or Penny Hardaway 6'7", and playing guard. Usually guards were small. Guards now can do everything a small guy does and better, and they're bigger. But he changed the whole position. Remember in the championship game, he played all the positions and scored like 42 points.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. One of the best ever. Which college coach do you like to watch now besides Izzo?
Well, I watch Izzo, and I've seen a lot of changes in the way he coaches the game.
Yeah.
Greg Campy, I admire him quite a bit. He's the coach at Oakland University.
Mm-hmm.
And
just so that people know, if wherever you're listening, we've been in 29 countries. We have people listening all over the place. Oakland University is Division I, but it is an afterthought in the state of Michigan. And so they get, the remainder of the scraps typically. And for that program to be doing what they're doing is
it's
unbelievable.
He's built it up. He's getting kids from the portal. Right. And this program, this team he has now may be the best team he's ever had. I think he could be the best mid-major Division I team in the whole country. He's that good. Amazing. He played Michigan State not long ago at Little Caesars Arena, and he lost by 12 to Izzo. Yep. It was close. He gave Izzo all he could handle. Yep. And what he's missing is a big guy. If he had a 6'11" guy, that's it.
Yeah, they're top 20, absolutely.
I like watching all the coaches. I listen to the announcers, how they basically the guy who does the play-by-play or
color guy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the color guy, because he's coaching the team.
Yeah.
And if you listen carefully, they're knowledgeable. They just don't put anybody in those positions. Mm-hmm. And when you listen to them, you're learning a lot from them on things that if you were a coach that you could take back to your team. But I love watching all the coaches. They're all very interesting characters. And I'm glad they don't have to wear sport jackets and ties anymore. I never felt that was necessary.
Yeah, definitely have relaxed a little bit, especially since the pandemic started. So speaking of announced color commentators, do you prefer Steve Lavin, Bill Walton, or Dickie V?
Lavin.
Wow.
Okay. Bill Walton talks too much. Okay. And Dick Vitale is a cheerleader with aircraft carrier and baby this and baby that. But Lavin gives you introspect to the game. Mm-hmm. And at where I'm coming from, that's what I look for. I don't need the cheerleading and all the gobbledygook that Walton does.
Right. Yeah.
Lavin all the time.
Yeah, he was on the show also. He was amazing.
I like Lavin a lot.
Yeah, Lav's great. Good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. Steph Curry or Isaiah Thomas?
Probably the better all-around point guard was Isaiah Thomas. The better shooter, Curry.
So if you were starting a team today, who would you take first?
I'd probably take Isaiah because he shows more leadership in directing a team.
Well, we'll see when it's all said and done if that's actually the case, because Steph has upped his leadership this year in particular.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, I would probably agree with you. The scales are tipped, maybe 51-49, not by very much.
It's awful close.
Awful close, yeah. MJ or LeBron?
Michael Jordan.
Larry or Kobe?
Kobe.
Wow. Bill Russell or Kareem?
Oh, gee. Both so great in their own right. Yeah. Russell with 11 championship rings at San Francisco. Tremendous rebounder, not a great scorer. Right. But Kareem, who holds the record of the most points in the NBA lifetime. Yeah. I probably would take Kareem.
Yeah. Unstoppable with the skyhook.
Both highly intelligent men, too.
Absolutely. Rocky Marciano, Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, or Mike Tyson?
Oh, man. Joe Louis, I've met.
Wow.
I met him. Rocky Marciano, I've met him, too. I met him in the Catskill Mountains in South Fallsburg, New York, when I was spending a summer when I was about 10 years old, getting a haircut in South Fallsburg. I was staying with my aunt, and the barber says to me, "Hey, kid, you know who's in that chair next to you?" And I was 10 years old, and I really didn't. What did I know about boxing?
Wow.
No, he says, "That's Rocky Marciano, the champ." And I got his autograph.
Unbelievable.
And he's the only heavyweight boxer that has never lost. Did you know that?
I don't think I knew that.
Never lost ever. Rocky Marciano.
Wow.
Perfect. Whatever he won in zero.
What a
And,
thing to happen to you the year after your dad died, too.
I know. Well, I was staying with my aunt just for the summer
Oh,
to try to take my mind off of what happened to us.
well, there you go. There was a sign from your dad.
Right. So Rocky Marciano.
Unbelievable.
Joe Louis, I shook hands with him. And when I
Wow.
put my hand out in his, I couldn't find mine anymore. His hand was so big, it just wrapped around mine.
Oh,
So I got his autograph, and it was really something to meet. And I used to see him at Vegas, Joe Louis. He was a greeter there, and I used
wow.
to see him there occasionally when I went there. But yeah, those are my stories with the boxers. The two autographs are in my son-in-law's house, and it's framed. And in that frame are the pictures with the autograph and the telltale of the tape, height, weight, and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And he's
Wow.
got it.
Amazing. So you didn't answer the question. Would you go with Ali as the best boxer?
With probably yes.
Yeah.
The most skilled boxer, without a doubt.
Well,
And smart.
Well,
Hey.
his humanitarian work went far beyond the boxing ring.
He was
Yeah.
rapping when nobody even knew what rapping was.
Wow.
Think about, he put rhymes together on
That's
how
right.
he was going to beat his opponent.
That's
It just
true.
didn't have and it had the beat. It just didn't have the music behind it.
That's
He
absolutely
was
correct.
rapping.
That's a great point. Jack Nicklaus or Tiger Woods?
Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer in my lifetime. Tiger Woods is incredible.
Incredible, yeah. And went across a lot of barriers too to have success, which isn't often talked about. Often criticized because of his lack of social injustice work, but he went across a lot of lines in his own way. And, maybe he'll do more at the tail end of his career. And with his son, now
Yeah,
coming to prominence. Dishes or vacuuming? You've been married a long time, as we talked about.
I do both.
Wow. What about laundry?
I wash dishes. I don't do the laundry, but I can fold. I know how to fold clothes.
Wow.
And I'm very good at ironing.
Wow.
And I did all those things to help my mother out. So when she would come home
That's
from
right.
work, a lot of those things were done
Wow.
ahead of time.
Well,
But I vacuum. That doesn't mean Rita can't do it. I just don't let her do it. I tell her I'll do it. You don't have to do it.
another mensch that we've talked about today is sitting on the other side of this computer. Bing Crosby, Nat King Cole, Billie Holiday, or Duke Ellington?
Gee. Bing Crosby.
Wow. Bingo, Scrabble, Rummikub, or Monopoly?
Monopoly.
Wow. Because of the grandkids?
Yeah, I play occasionally with them, not often, but
I've brought board games back to my 11-year-old daughter because, if we don't keep that.
I've seen you playing with Amelia.
Yeah, absolutely. Famous phrases from the 50s that we don't really say anymore. Cruising for a bruising, knuckle sandwich, or burn rubber?
Burn rubber.
Famous phrases of the 2000s. Bling or dope?
Well, dope for sure.
Fire or lit?
Fire or what?
Lit, L-I-T. Like that's lit.
Oh, that's it. Lit. What up, dope?
Right.
What up?
That's another good one.
And Robert Brown would laugh at me, saying, "What up, dope?" But I said, "Hey, I'm always around you. I got to be able to understand what the hell you're talking about."
Absolutely. Well, and a lot of the times on the show, I talk a lot about music and the influence of music in the Black and brown communities, fashion, and entertainment, because a lot of times they're trendsetters in those areas. Chill out or you're tripping?
You're tripping.
Now, you played baseball growing up as well.
Yeah.
Should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Hank Aaron. Go ahead.
I think you have to separate what he did on the baseball diamond from the wrong he did on betting on teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, or Jackie Robinson?
All three.
Brady or Montana?
Brady, for sure.
Okay. Phil Jackson or Popovich?
Phil Jackson.
Favorite U.S. president of all time?
John F. Kennedy.
Boy, that must have impacted you tremendously when that happened.
I remember the day he got shot. Watched it on television live. In this country, I'd never seen people who were strangers to him crying, because that family represented Camelot, and everybody could relate to that family. And to this day, they still do. People are fascinated with the Kennedys. He was a great. I think if he would have lived, and Martin Luther King would have lived, Martin Luther King might have been a vice president. Eventually. It's a shame, we'll never know. But what a great man John F. Kennedy was. It's too bad his life was taken from him.
Yeah. And Martin Luther King. So you're a girl dad to 2 girls. You want to talk about how amazing that experience has been, and now seeing, them have children?
Well, having my daughter Jamie was a highlight of my life. And when Rita was pregnant with Andrea, people would say to me, you want a son, don't you? And I said, if it can be as great as having a daughter, I'll take another daughter. And sure enough, I got another daughter. And I never had a son. I don't feel bad.
Sons, actually.
What?
You had a lot of sons, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of sons. But I didn't miss anything by not having a biological son. Daughters were always a part of everything I did. And they went to all the basketball games. Jamie's been in every gym: Highland Park, Eat Course, Robichaud, Willow Run, River Rouge, you name it. She's been in all of them. Andrea too. They kept the charts for me, so they were involved. So it wasn't just a basketball job for me and to come home, but it was something that was talked about at the dinner table every evening. And my family was a part of it. When we had a home game and say in Oak Park, they would come down and we would all eat at Dexter Davis in Coney Island and go over to the JV game. And they rode the bus with me. They were a part of it. And those are memories that will last forever.
Well, I'm one of those memories, because they were in the gym during middle school, and they were little kids, and I remember them running around at halftime and just, loving being a part of that atmosphere. Well,
today they're 40 years old and they each have their own 2 children.
Amazing. What's your favorite dish or food at Coney Island?
I like the salad, that Leo's Coney Island.
Yeah.
And of course the hot dog with the onions.
Oh,
heavy onions.
Oh man, amazing. Okay, a couple more questions and we'll let you go. It's been amazing. Biggest keys to your incredible wife and your successful marriage of nearly 50 years?
Never argue. Disagree, maybe, but never an argument. And she's been an incredible supporter of me as I am of her. And we're a partnership. And the love has lasted all these years. In fact, I always say to her, we won't be together forever. I want to die first. And she says, what? I said, because I can't stand the thought of being alone.
Oh.
So
what does she say to that? She walk out of the room?
Don't talk like that.
Right. Don't talk like that. Yeah. Okay. So what will happen first? The Lions will win a Super Bowl. The Tigers will win a World Series. The Pistons an NBA championship, or the Red Wings a Stanley Cup?
Tigers will win a championship first.
Wow.
They're rebuilding, and I think they're making great strides.
Who will win their respective championship last?
The Detroit Lions. I feel bad for them.
Do you like the coach?
What? I like the coach?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think losing game after game after game and getting them to play hard and play together tells you something about him. He's creating a culture, and I think and I hope it will change. before I die.
Yeah.
I remember the last championship back in '57.
Yep.
When Joe Schmidt played and all those guys. And it's been a long time, but I think he's doing it the right way. And I think they'll be better next year.
I hope so. We say that every year. Our best day of the year is the NFL draft.
Well,
All right, last question. If you could have any 5 people at your dinner table, past or present, dead or alive, but it has to be people you do not know. What 5
that I do not know?
Do not know. 5 people at your dinner table, past or present, dead or alive. Who would be at your dinner table?
Well, I'd like to have John Wooden there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I did correspond with him, and he did correspond with me. But to actually know him, no, I didn't know him. I'd like to have John Wooden there. I'd like to have Moses be there. I'd like John F. Kennedy to be there. I'd like to have Martin Luther King be there. How many is that? 4?
That's 4. Any females at the table?
Let's see. A female. Yeah. Our Jewish Supreme Court judge that just passed away.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Great
Absolutely.
call.
Great woman.
Man, that would be a great dinner table.
What a conversation that would be. Can you imagine?
Unbelievable.
But you know what? The game of basketball has done so much good for me. It has rewarded me like you can't imagine. When I start coaching it, I never coached it for my own personal fame.
Yeah.
It wasn't really about me. It was about the kids. But I got to tell you one quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I remember once you were at my house, I was someplace else, and I had a basket on my driveway, and when I came home, there you were shooting the ball. The sweat was just wringing off of you. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Right.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that. The way you were working so hard at that one basket, and till I came home, and the way you were so sweaty, that shirt, you could take it and just wring out the sweat from it. Never forget that.
Yeah, well, it's largely because of you, and people don't necessarily know this story who are listening to this today. I want to make sure everyone knows. I got cut 3 times growing up. Once in middle school, once in high school, and then once again in college. And if it wasn't for your encouragement, if it wasn't for the letter that you wrote to my Hall of Fame junior college coach, just saying, hey, give this kid a chance. Same thing with Dick Rice, just saying, hey, what's it gonna hurt to have him on the team? And it just gave me an opportunity. And even though it wasn't the greatest experience, it still opened a lot of doors. And 30 years later, like you, I'd like to think that I'm paying it forward. And, because of people like you, Richard Maltz, Mr. Emmanuel, men in my life, coaches in my life that basically replaced the father that I didn't have. I'm forever and eternally grateful for you. And
thank you, Mike. What we are is we are bridge builders.
Absolutely.
We build the bridge so that the others can go over it to the other side. And hopefully they will learn and they will build a bridge for the kids coming. Absolutely. And do the same thing.
Well, and that's where we need to focus our attention with the children of our future, to change a lot of these narratives in this country so that we create a more equitable society for everybody. And you've certainly done that, and I've done that. We're both allies, and it's been amazing to watch your career and enjoying your retirement now, and being a grandfather, and fascinating story. And the chapters are still yet to be determined.
The one last thing I want to tell you is what summed it all up was being nominated and admitted to the Michigan Jewish Sports Hall of Fame.
Yes.
It's something that I never thought about.
Amazing.
Didn't even know about it. But when it was presented to me, it kind of like tied everything together. But I never coached basketball to get these awards.
Right.
I coached it honestly because I loved the game and I wanted to help the kids. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't about me. It's their game. It was about them. And I know you do the same thing I do.
Amazing and well deserved. And like you said, the game will be there long after we're gone. And we were just a part of it, and just trying to uphold and maintain the integrity of it. And I promised everybody I would tell this story before we let you go. So 7th grade, I'm sitting in the 5th row, second seat.
I remember.
And you were my teacher. I think it was history. My memory serves me correctly, or
Social studies.
Social studies, yeah. And so you saw me chewing. I remember what kind of gum it was. It was sugar-free bubble yum. And so you were like, "You're not allowed to chew gum in my class." I'm like, "Okay." So you like, Michael, please throw the gum away. So I was respectful. I got up and proceeded to throw the gum away in the garbage can. I sat back down. You continue to teach. And I reached in my pocket and grabbed another piece of gum and put it in my mouth. And you said, what are you doing? And I just told you to throw the gum out. You got another piece of gum in your mouth. I said, well, you told me to throw the gum away. You didn't tell me I couldn't reach in my pocket and grab another piece of gum and put it in my mouth.
I think what I saw in you was me. And I wanted to make sure that you got a chance and an opportunity. And even though I never really coached you or you played for me.
Yeah, you came the year after I left, unfortunately. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to make sure that you realized some of that passion that you had for the game. So that's how we got to Goucher College. And the best part is you didn't have to pay for it, did you?
Well, it was a D3 school, but I ended up playing on the first team in the history of the school. And so they wanted guys so badly. I think my family ended up paying about $2,500 a year for a $35,000 a year education. So not so bad for using the round ball to, as you say, as a vehicle.
It's a vehicle.
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
That's right. I helped 20 kids go to realize their dream and play college basketball. 20 of them played college basketball. Amazing. 3 pros in Europe, and a couple of districts, couple regional finals.
Amazing.
And a couple coach of the years.
Number 1 ranking. Yep.
Number 1 ranked most of the time in every year I coached, except the bad teams. But I did it.
We've all had bad teams.
And I do miss it to this day.
Yeah. Well, it's never too late. You can always come out here and be my assistant coach, as I've offered for the last how many years.
Right.
But you have to bring Rita with you, and she's got a seat on the bench and a seat at my table. And yeah, that's right. Well, fascinating stuff. Love you, and can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It was amazing.
Thank you very much.
All right. Say hi to everybody. Thanks.
I will.
We'll talk soon, and stay safe, be healthy, and much love to you and the family.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. God bless you. You do great work. Keep on doing it.
All right. Thanks, Howard. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The legendary Hall of Fame coach, Howard Golding. Can't thank him enough for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed that incredible interview. And remember, Black Lives Matter. Stop the bullying, stop the Asian hate, and contact your local and state politicians for any injustices that you feel are happening to any individual or group. Also, wanted to remind all of you, if you're having a tough time, you can always call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that number is 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, and they are available 24/7, 365 days a year. You can also always check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at Mike Hootner. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors, Breaking Tea, Sport RX, PSK Collective, City Lokes, and Moolah Kicks, which you can see right here up on the screen. You can search them online at breakingtea.com, sportrx.com, pskcollective.com, moolahkicks.com, and citylokes.com. And if you'd like to support us at the Sports Deli, we'd love to have you either make a one-time donation, or feel free to make a donation monthly, either 99 cents a month, $4.99 a month, or $9.99 a month. If you have questions about that, send me an email again to thesportsdeli@gmail.com, and I will send you the link on how you can do that. You can also find it at the bottom of every podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Link at the bottom to support the show. And remember, you can always send us an email to thesportsdeli@gmail.com. Please check out our website at thesportsdelipodcast.com. Remember, it takes a village. And until next time, for Dr. J and Coach K, I'm Hootie Hoot. Much love. Peace.